Hello and welcome to the main special coverage of Investment Summit 2020. On the sideline of the panel, I am in conversation with Aditya Ghosh. He is the board member of Oyo Hotels and Homes. So Aditya, welcome to the show. Our first question is: you belong to you come from the hospitality industry, and Indian economy is grappling with a slowdown in consumption. So, where do you see the future ahead, or what's your outlook?
Well, first, thank you for having me here. It's always a pleasure. I just think that fundamentally India is a very, very strong story. It's a supply constrained market, and any product or service, especially in the hospitality business, which can be offered at a lower cost with a same or higher quality, is bound to succeed. Whether that be hotels, whether that be airlines, whether it be travel agents, whether it is travel management companies. But if you look at the last few months and the more recent sort of consumption slowdown, as you were saying, I have seen this in the past as well when the 2009 crisis happened, etc., after 9/11. Products and services which are of that lower cost and which are more affordable, they actually see a much bigger growth and exponential growth during these times. Because people don't want to spend as much, but they still need to travel and they still need to stay in hotels and so on and so forth. So even at Oyo, for instance, we are continuing to see very strong demand and we are continuing to see very strong growth. Having said that, there will be one or two quarters here or there where there'll be a relative slowdown. It's not a slowdown, but it's a relative slowdown. But when you're trying to build a business for many years to come, I think that should not shake your belief from the opportunity that you're chasing. The second thing is that the more immediate problem, I think, which is a much deeper, crisis that we must pay a lot more attention to, or get prepared for, is the spread of the coronavirus, because that is definitely leading to at least international travel coming down, etc. So companies have to kind of literally just go day by day and see how the situation develops, and try to kind of brace themselves for as best as they can.
Right. You actually preempted my question about coronavirus. Globally and in India included, do you think, the economies are not prepared to kind of tackle global health scare as coronavirus? Of course, this, scares or this epidemic will never come calling. I mean, there needs to be a preparedness.
Yes. Well, look, that's a tough one for any economy or any business, because, like you said, these are just so unpredictable. Having said that, what we are doing, for instance, at Oyo, and given the fact that we have such a large presence of our business in China,
Right.
China is actually our biggest, single largest market. At the moment, we are focusing first on making sure that our employees are safe. We've dedicated 1 million RMB just for any relief work or rehabilitation work that we have to do. We have to make sure that our employees are safe and there's no spread of the disease. So there's a lot of active action work going on at the moment. Can companies get prepared? I think there is a lot that can happen through just preparing for an emergency response system like airlines have. And in the last 1 year at Oyo, we've built a very, very strong emergency response process and procedure. But having said that, I'll be honest and say this is one of those things where leaders have to kind of stand up and face it one day at a time and hope like hell that this goes away and this doesn't become a bigger, larger problem.
Right. You mentioned that you have kept aside an amount for funds for meeting the emergency. Now, in that scenario, will it impact your earnings or revenue going forward?
It's too small a portion of the revenue. I don't think it's a question of how much, and it's not a question of whether that will retard the revenue. There are the two bigger things is that whether the global economy goes through a slowdown because there's a supply chain crisis. And for us, we have to see how quickly the domestic travel market in China starts coming up again.
but also it's spreading in India. There are a lot of instructions giving in the airports, and people are cutting down their travels. Do you think this quarter may be deeply disrupted because of the outbreak?
Well, I don't know if it will be deeply disrupted. I think there'll be some impact. I still don't see any dramatic decrease in the traffic. I mean, almost every flight is full. That's also because some of the capacity came down, airline capacity came down in the country a few months ago because one airline is not operating. So I still see the planes full. I still see a lot of traffic, but this is still very early days for India. Maybe we will be able to contain the spread of the disease, and this is where it will end. But of course, if it becomes much bigger, then the impact will be larger. But it's too early to say how large that impact will be.
Right. So, shifting focus to a much funner question, you are also a health freak, right? And fitness enthusiastic.
Yes.
Anything that you can suggest for somebody for it's a coronavirus is a scare, and there's no there is no medicine that has been found out globally. But any fitness regime that you would suggest people to follow?
Well, I think the first is the mindset shift of thinking that, look, you have to be a health freak or you have to be a fitness enthusiast to exercise or to be careful about your own health. And if you need a reason to know, so don't think about how you're going to look in a photograph or what people say about you, but think about your parents who you have to take care of. Think about your children who you have to take care of. The responsibilities. And the working age of human beings has become much longer than it used to be a few years ago, and the stresses and the pulls and pushes of the demands of modern day work is so much more. So the tip is really, let it become a part of your life. It is not just a New Year resolution. So you've got to wake up early in the morning, and you've got to be careful about what you eat, and you've got to go and exercise. There is no, it's a long, very slow road, but it's a fulfilling road also.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So before letting you go, one last question: what's your takeaway or learnings from attending the annual investment summit?
So this is day one, and obviously a very, very exciting set of speakers right through from the afternoon, and tomorrow I think it promises to be the same. The takeaway seems to be that people still seem to be very, very confident about the longer term opportunity of India, and everybody seems to be also conscious of the fact that only capital is not what's going to take India ahead. You have to get ahead of innovation, and you've got to get ahead of how to execute to those ideas.
On that note, Aditya, thanks a lot for joining.
Thank you, my pleasure.